What's this? Another game already? Well, actually, it's not just one, it's three. Okay, for a change, I decided that I was going to publish some games of me getting utterly owned. I did a little chronicles of masochism some time ago, just showcasing some losses in Commander. But what makes this set of three games exceptional is that all of three of these games were played against the same person and all consecutively. They were basically, I don't think we played all of them back to back to back, but they were all played on the same span of roughly an hour. And two of them were back to back, and one of them was just a few games later. All three against this pseudo Tesla guy who I don't think I've ever played before. Certainly didn't recognize his name. And I was playing with the new and experimental Kenrith, the Return King deck that Nate and I were working on, which is basically 5-color control, of course, with Oath of Druids package built into it with some flashback cards and Oath creatures, and kind of just piggybacking on the idea that the commander is versatile, has card advantage, has life gain, has finishing power, has haste, does kind of a lot of things. Seems really good in theory, but I'll have to admit that this set of three games is what really soured me on this deck and made me move away from it. I still haven't given up on Kenrith as an idea. I just probably think that it's not good in an Oath package the way that we had it. And I think that perhaps the commander is better suited to a 5-color reanimation strategy where you can really take advantage of that 5-mana black ability, which is totally useless in nearly all the games because while it does reanimate a creature from any graveyard, it puts into play under its owner's control. So you can reanimate their guys, which has very, very little utility. And as you'll see in all three of these games, there was a huge disparity in the strength of the draws between me and Pseudo. But that alone should not be enough of a reason for failing to win three games, particularly given how high the win percentage that I usually have with most of my designs is. And anyway, well, the games will speak for themselves, so I'm just going to proceed to that rather than just talk for hours. He's playing Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, and he actually said to me in the chat before we began, he's a really nice guy, but he said to me before we began that he had basically taken the list that I must have sent him or that he got from just one of my earlier Yuriko videos and changed it slightly. So I knew I'd be in for a tough fight regardless. It's gonna get rough right from the get-go. I'm going first at least. And I'm just going to lead with a Breeding Pool into Brainstorm. Not an exceptional hand, but Brainstorm into hopefully another blue land activates the Deprive as well as transmuting the Muddle and can hopefully get me into additional colors of mana. But this is one of the biggest fundamental problems with these 5-color designs is that you just get a lot of draws that are kind of hard to work around. You just get a lot of draws with goofy mana and a lot of situational cards. You have to use cards like Muddle the Mixture to just fine-tune your draw. It's hard to get everything to work out in the right way, and that's fine when you play against a deck that isn't just pressuring you and is beating you in the face or doing awful things right at the start. You can usually have time to develop. But the problem is that if you fall behind early and you're struggling with your mana base while they're actually doing their game plan, and those two things are generally incompatible with a winning strategy. And one thing about the Brea deck, which of course is a 4-color deck, is that it doesn't run hardly anything in its non-blue-white colors. I guess it's mainly a blue-white-black deck. It has a tiny little splash of red as well as the commander, but the mana base is just more robust. 4 colors is so much easier to run than 5. And it seems obvious, on the surface, but you'd think, oh, well, with all the fetch lands and dual lands and shock lands and signets and everything else, it should be very, very easy. But there's so many games because 100-card Singleton is just such a high-variance format. There's so many games where you just don't have the right mana. And the deck has to mulligan a ton also because we're running so few lands, and it's just hard to get draws that work, that are cohesive in this deck. Another reason why I don't really like it. And in a blue-black deck like the one he's using, very, very consistent. All right, passing the turn back here. And he leads with Chrome Mox. All right, well, that's fine. It's usually often a sign that they don't have land. And he plays Mystic Remora right out of the gate. Okay, well, he certainly does have a land. I'm going to Brainstorm in response, obviously, since I'm not going to let him draw a card afterward. And hoping to draw, I don't know, something that kills a Mystic Remora, or something that kills Chrome Mox so he can't pay upkeep. I do get some nice cards off of it, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to play any of them into the Mystic Remora. I'm going to just have to bide my time, and I don't have a ton of land. This would have been such a good draw without Mystic Remora in play. But, I mean, what can you do, right? He can pay for it for maybe at a max of 2 turns, and then he's got freaking Mana Crypt. Arg. All right. That's going to make things a lot harder. He does not have a land, though. But I don't have anything really of consequence coming. I'm just going to have to pass and hope that he does not draw land for a couple turns. Eventually the Remora goes away, and I'm able to do something like Vampiric Tutor end of turn and cast Necro with Thought Vessel. That's sort of my plan. So he pays upkeep. He plays a Swamp. And, you know, in retrospect, I think I probably should have just gone for it right here. You know, he only has blue mana available right now. Sure, he gets to draw 2 cards, but if I get Necro in play, he's playing blue-black. I can probably just, honestly, power through the Remora without a ton of mana available. He can draw extra cards, but he can't really do that much, and it's likely that his deck is not playing with a ton of bigger, expensive things anyway, given the fact that it's Yuriko, and he's probably playing with a lot of small creatures, like, you know, since he said that he copied the deck that or pretty much copied the deck that I was using. So I think that playing passively here and gambling that he wouldn't draw land, well, it was definitely a bit of a gamble. He didn't have any land to start with, and I felt like it was worthwhile to try that. I dropped Treachery, but I'm kind of stuck on this path now. End of turn, he flashes out a Spectral Sailor. This guy did not actually exist when I built the Yuriko deck, and is an excellent card to include in it. It's got Flash and Flying at 1 mana, which is amazing. You got to say, Flying Man has really come a long way since they printed it in, or Flying Men in Arabian Nights. It's got Flash, and it's just a Jam-Day Tome as well. So unfortunately, because of the Remora, he can still pay upkeep. He draws another island off the top. Yeesh. And now Yuriko comes to the party. I'm just hoping he doesn't hit anything of consequence. He reveals a Submerge, which deals 4 damage to me. And now under this kind of pressure, and now that he's got 2 land in play, I know he can continue to pay the Mystic Remora for the foreseeable future. I kind of just have to go for what I should have done the turn ago, and that's to cast, cast something to improve my board position at least a little bit. So at the end of the turn, I'm going to cast Remora, or I'm going to cast Vampiric Tutor, even though it means he gets to draw a free card. And I'm not getting Necropotence because what I really need right now is mana, so that I can not only counterspell his following play, but I can also Treachery the Yuriko and just try to get back into this game. I've got Imperial Seal to get Necropotence later, so of course getting mana with Workshop and 2 other lands means I get Gilded Lotus. And he's only got 1 blue mana, so the worst thing that could possibly happen here is a Spell Pierce or a Force Spike, I suppose. He gets to draw another card. And remember how I said that the worst thing that could happen is Force Spike or Spell Pierce? That's not actually the worst thing that could happen. How about that? Commandeer. God. Yeah, I'm not winning this game. I just immediately scoop on the spot. He's about to take control of a Gilded Lotus. It gives him, 8 mana at a minimum. With Yuriko going, the ability to pay for Remora forever, I'm completely dead. That is a instant hard counter, and that's it. Game 1 against Mr. Pseudo Tesla is over. Score 1 point for the 1 point Mana Crypt, 0 points me. Let's go to game 2. And forgive me formatting things here. There's no way to actually get around this, unfortunately. All right, kicking off game 2. All right, I won the die roll again. Going first. We're still sticking with Kenrith, and I have another mulligan hand. Sorry, I warped past that. I should have opened up the commanders. But he's changed his commanders now to Emry, Lurker of the Loch, which I have heard a lot about. I don't think I've actually faced it as a commander, but yeah, this thing is all sorts of degeneracy. There are so many cheap artifacts in Commander that Emry could continuously cost 1 blue mana through multiple castings. You can basically ignore the commander tax on it, and well, yeah, I mean, look at that. Choose target artifact in your graveyard, you can cast it. So even if they draw Crypt or Soul Ring or Mana Vault, and you're lucky enough to be able to actually counteract or interact with those, they can just replay it from the graveyard. There's nothing to stop it. So Emry is just the kind of card that is just I don't know, I mean, it's just a stone cold killer against control strategies. And very, very problematic for a deck without a lot of spot removal and without a ton of counters. This thing is just straight up nasty, and double mulligan is not going to help my chances. This is the kind of hand I was talking about. Lots of situational stuff. Deprive with, I don't know, 1 blue mana source Workshop and Gaia's Blessing in my hand. It's just horrible. Throw it back for 6. And at least I've got some interaction here. I've got Spell Pierce to stop the turn 1 Mana Crypt or Soul Ring. And yeah, hard to decide what to throw away here. I decide ultimately that I can lose the Grim Monolith, and the Divining Top is sort of redundant next to Brainstorm. So that's the, particularly the fetch land. So that's what I'm going to keep. I'm going to put the top in the Grim Monolith away for the mulligan. All right. Yeah, not feeling too good about this game already. But I'll be fine if he doesn't draw Crypt or Soul Ring. Oh, he's got Welding Jar. Okay, no big deal. It's ridiculous. Okay, so that's the second game in a row he started with a 2-mana artifact on turn 1. And yeah, remember how I said that I was plagued and cursed to have my opponents just draw this card continuously? This guy was the ultimate. He was the final form of that curse. And yeah, I got Spell Pierce, no problem. Unfortunately, Emry of the Lock costs 2 mana right now due to Welding Jar being in play. I got a Brainstorm here. I draw Wargate Factor. This stuff is just all useless. Oh, it's so frustrating. All right, so I'm going to put the 2 uncastable clunky things back. Play Strip Mine. I gave some thought here to stripping the snow-covered island and just hoping that maybe he would have no islands and I'd get lucky, but it's so insanely risky. I know that the top 2 cards in my deck are both spells, which means I won't be able to play the Talisman. And he could just like play one more 1 or 0 mana artifact and play Emry and then recast the Soul Ring, and I'm just sitting here doing nothing. So as much as I want to strip mine, I cannot risk it. I'm going to just have to hope that he bricks for a turn or 2, that he has literally nothing but counterspells or something. He didn't have land next turn, but of course there is a second island, and he's got Divining Top, which is basically free for the purpose of the Emry of the Lock. It comes down, mills 4 cards, Chromatic Star, Force of Will, Bauble. Honestly, this Emry deck, I think, in 1v1 is probably a force to be reckoned with. It seems like it just seems insanely unfair. Being able to cast your commander for 1 blue mana over and over and over again and then regrow all these card advantage artifacts out of the graveyard. Regrowing Soul Ring. Yuck. Well, certainly if there's a deck to beat it, it isn't a 5-color, slow as hell, Kenrith-based Oath deck. All right, I got 1 shot, and that's going to basically be put out Talisman, land Shackles the following turn somehow, and steal Emry. At least I can Plowshare Emry for 1 more turn here to buy me a little bit of a window to get the Shackles online before he can deal with it. But it only costs... I mean, it should cost 5, right? But currently its cost is reduced by 2, so it actually only costs 3. And yeah, he just replays it again. Commander tax paid for by these 2 artifacts. 4 more things go to the graveyard. There's an Astrolabe in there now, so he's got more... This is card advantage when it comes into play. Just ridiculous. Ichor Wellspring, more card advantage when it comes into play, and Reservoir, of course. You can just load your deck up with every good, cheap artifact in the game, and they're all good with Emry. Pretty degenerate. All right, I'm going to draw an awesome card next turn. Wargate coming online. Just exactly what I need. All right, I'm just going to play the Shackles and hope for the best. All right. All right, I need Pseudo to have basically nothing. He has an island. He gets to play Soul Ring out of the graveyard. And he plays Ethereum Shaper, or sorry, Ethereum Sculptor, so Soul Ring costs 0. Lovely. And he plays Kark Clan Ironworks. So yeah, I can't even steal the artifacts either. And he's got crazy mana generation as well. From bad to worse. All right, but I do have the ability to steal Emry. There is still hope. Yep, I draw that Mighty Deprive. I have to steal Emry right now because he can probably play Aetherflux Reservoir and just kill me in 1 or 2 turns, so I have to steal it before he can replay it from the graveyard. All right, there's a hope he could have absolutely nothing here, and then he just has some mana, and I can actually get back into this game. I need him to not have anything on this turn. He starts tapping a bunch of mana, and as soon as I start seeing things like Welding Jar get tapped and Soul Ring go to the graveyard, I know exactly what's coming. Now, Whir of Invention for 4. Can anyone guess what's coming? I'll give you a hint. It involves these 2 cards. And it was just printed. Mystic Forge, which is basically Future Sight, but for artifacts. And he's got 0 casting cost top Ethereum Sculptor, and Future Sight in play, and Karkland Ironworks, which means he draws his entire deck, has infinite mana, and kills me. And that's it. I just immediately scooped, and we are on to game 3. Exciting. All right, surely my luck has to change for this game, and he can't continue to be so lucky. Nope. Another completely unplayable hand with a strip mine for mana, bunch of black spells, cryptic command. Perfect. I'm going to throw these back. Yes. I drew Soul Ring. If there's some justice. Gaia's Blessing, obviously, don't want that in my hand since that gets churned with Oath of Druids. And I do have Enlightened Tutor, so I have the ability to play Oath on turn 2, which should really screw up his commander plan. So I'm feeling very, very good about this. And I'm just going to play... Oh, wait, that's right. He's going first this game. All right, Astrolabe, not bad. He draws a card. Oh, look. Mana Crypt. 3rd game in a row. Deep sigh. I mean, what do you do, right? It just happens in this format. And that means he gets to cast his commander on turn 1. So ridiculous. Oh, with mana floating, incidentally. And he mills some incidental garbage as well. Crazy. Well, I thought my Soul Ring looked good, but because he went first this game, and I would have been able to screw him probably. If I had gone first, like the last 2 games, I would have gone Marsh Flats, cast Soul Ring, untap, cast Enlightened Tutor, play the Forbidden Orchard, and cast Oath of Druids. And I think Oath of Druids would probably be able to beat this crazy Lurker draw, although maybe not, honestly. He might be able to just combo out and kill me before I could even do that. All right, I'm just going to play Soul Ring. Hope for the best. All right. Mirror Retriever. Yeah, that's pretty insane if he draws like this interaction right here. If he's able to draw 1 sack outlet, it's going to be just game over. So he's just casting his Jeweled Amulet for free. All right. Well, he's got 2 blue mana open. I certainly cannot do an Enlightened Tutor into... I mean, I'm not under a ton of pressure yet. So as much as I would love to go Enlightened Tutor and cast Oath of Druids, I cannot do that right now because if he does have a counterspell, I have literally nothing else to follow it up with, short of playing Kenrith in a couple of turns, and I don't expect I'll be alive at that point. So I got to play a bait spell first. I'm just going to lead with Thran Dynamo here and hope he takes the bait and counters it, and that he draws no more counters. Oh, Mana Drain. Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, he may not have a follow-up. As long as it's not, I don't know, something like a sack outlet or the Mystic Forge. Sometimes you got to just laugh. There's a Karkland Ironworks too. Cool. All right, so he's got Emry plus the Mirror Retriever plus the Astrolabe to draw multiple cards a turn now. Plays Astrolabe. Recast the Mirror Retriever. Just disgusting. Sacks the Astrolabe. Is this a loop right here all by itself? Does this loop forever? Can sack Mirror Retriever. Oh, it's because you need snow mana to play the Astrolabe over and over again. That's the only thing preventing me from getting combo killed right now. Because he could draw his entire deck if you could just cast the Astrolabe anyway. So it works until he runs out of snow mana. He just charges the Jeweled Amulet and says go. All right. Still got a shot here. And again, he's got 2 blue mana untapped, as well as the Astrolabe plus a Mana Crypt. So 3 blue. I still feel like I can't just run out Oath here. And I need to just play Kenrith and hope that he just churns for a little while without doing much of anything. Yeah, win Orb. That's perfect. Perfect for the situation. All right. Play a 5/5. I'm sure that's the solution. He untaps. Does not take any damage. So he's going to do this little cycling thing here again. Oh, that's true. I guess he can only get the Mirror Retriever once per turn using Emry. Cloud Key. All right. That's more combos with the cheaper artifacts. Okay, I get an untap step. It's not over yet. But I've remove my ability to get Oath in play. And honestly, like, what is that even available to me? You know, the Oath is an answer to damage. It's an answer to creatures, but it's not an answer to something like what's going on, which is just graveyard recursion that just draws the entire deck and kills you in one turn. So Oath is not even really a solution. I suppose I could just Enlighten Tutor for Shackles here and hope that that gets it done. But then I draw a Mystic Confluence. So I actually have the ability to counterspell, although making him pay 3 additional may not work because of the Karkland Ironworks and the ability to replay stuff from the graveyard. I'm going to get in there for 5. Sit behind Mystic Confluence, hope he just doesn't draw anything. Feel disheartened. He is down to 16 though. So he sacks the Astrolabe, targets it with a recast, plays it. Yeah, draws a card. And then he plays Scrap Trawler. So Scrap Trawler costs 3. He's got 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, yeah, actually I guess it costs 2 at the moment because of Cloud Key. But 2, 4, 6, 8. He has way more than enough mana for me to counterspell this, even if I make him pay 9. And because of that, I kind of just let the scrap Trawler through. And at this point, I'm pretty certain there's some combo in here that just makes me instantly lose. And when I was clicking through this before, actually when I was testing it, it kept bringing up the choices on my Mystic Confluence for some reason. There's all this weird graveyard interaction, but you can see what's going on here. Scrap Trawler says when another artifact is put into the graveyard or itself, you can return an artifact from the graveyard. So this does create an infinite loop with the Astrolabe and the Mirror Retriever to make infinite mana. And I'm just going to let him loop this for a bit. You guys can see. Codex Shredder, Springleaf Drum. So now he can tap his creatures when he returns them to play. He can actually tap them with the Springleaf Drum. He's not doing that, but he could actually tap them for infinite blue mana. Actually, I guess, yeah, you can sack the drum in there somewhere. It's a slow combo, but you kind of get the idea where this is headed. And after watching him do this for a little while and chatting for a bit, I decided I had enough of this Kenrith deck, probably forever, and conceded. Deep sigh. It would have been interesting to see how interactive these games were if my opponent didn't draw Krypton Soul Ring in his opening hand all 3 games. But, I mean, you saw I didn't have a bad draw in the 3rd game. I mulliganed once, but I did draw Soul Ring. I drew Enlightened Tutor. And it didn't matter at all. I got completely destroyed by this stupid Emry Lurker of the Lock deck. And I think that maybe there's some strategy in there with Kenrith, but it's going to look a lot different than the current version that we have. I think Nate has actually gone back to basically just building a Brea deck again, using Kenrith instead and using some extra red cards that we don't normally have. I'm sorry, not red cards, green cards that we don't normally have access to, like Oko, for example, as well as Wrenn and 6. And probably Sylvan Library should be in there too, but there aren't really that many green cards that are worth using to push you into the color other than those 3 if you're not playing Oath of Druids. So I'm not convinced that a 5 and mucking up the mana base and going all the way up to 5 colors just for that small benefit is probably not worth it given how strong the Brea deck is. So I doubt I'll be playing this deck much more, if at all. Sorry if people were interested in seeing where it was going, but it just seems like, I don't know, maybe an idea ahead of its time or not ready for prime time or whatever. If anyone has any suggestions about something we might be missing, I'm all ears, but I hope you guys enjoyed those games. It's rare to get crushed so badly, particularly 3 games in a row by the same person, but, you know, in a high variance format, it does happen, and kudos to Pseudo Tesla. I hope to rematch him again down the road with one of my more streamlined and tested decks and see how those goes. I will definitely record the games when it happens, and I will see you guys later.